I got a bottle of Patron and some lights off, two red devil looking eyeballs, and I finna turn up when the night falls. If you hear a siren, then it's my fault. Jump in my whip, baby, let's ride. We ain't gonna stop at a red.
But anyway, look,
Yeah.
I've got two channels, right? So obviously Urban Combatives is all about that, what I do.
Yeah.
And there is another channel, which is the UC Peaceful Warrior. I don't know if you've seen that. But it's other methods, non-physical methods of self-protection. So lots of things, you know, like looking after your body, mobility, soft tissue work, cold water therapy, building your immune system, etc., etc. But there's also like philosophical and spiritual stuff that we talk about. So I talk very candid about what I believe or feel in my heart, at least, what is going on now. And all you got to do is read 1984 and you'll know what's going on. Do you know what I mean? George Orwell fucking predicted this a long time ago. So my point of telling you that is I came to a point in my career because I'm the only one, now not by my own admission, by the admissions of others. I'm in the top 3 in the world in this business. So that leaves then the likes of Kelly McCann, Richard Dimitri, myself, and Tony Blauer, of who I'm sure you'll be familiar, right? So these are the guys that are making the most waves in reality-based self-protection and combatives. But nobody's speaking up. No one's speaking their truth. And I'm the only one that is. So that's kind of made me the elephant in the room. Does that make sense? So consequently, I make sure that I strive to separate those philosophies and what my thoughts are, because there's many podcasts out there, Chris Thrall's, many, if you have a look, you'll see that what my views are on the current state of events in the world. And I need to strive to apparently keep that separate from the urban combative stuff. So what I'm putting the feelers out with you now is like, yeah, what do you want to talk about? Because if you get me talking about the truth stuff, you know, I'll speak my truth. But if that's not appropriate for your audience, then we can keep it more self-protection related. But ask anyone that knows me, I'm well known for saying it as I see it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, so like the old kind of left and right brain cohesion, balanced, benevolent soul,
yeah,
but is a fucking warrior. That kind of ethos for that idea of the warrior monk, warrior poet. All through history, all through martial expression, you see, you know, this person that used the vehicle of dealing with violence and death, if you like, the dark arts, to take him to a summit which made him the highest full spectrum spiritual being that he could be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm kind of on that journey, but I'm not by any means there now. Just got someone at the door. Give us a second.
All right.
We got, mate. All right, yeah, cheers, bud. Nice one. Yeah. Yeah, so, like, you know, I don't know what your audience is like. I don't want you to get me on a topic because I just fucking chat.
You're preaching to the choir, mate.
Oh, that's good. All right.
My thing is like my thing with this. I kind of got into doing these podcasts reluctantly, at the suggestion of a friend, and my thing has always been just total transparency.
Sorry, mate. This is my wife. This is my wife B. It's her birthday today.
Happy birthday!
This is Nathan.
Nice to meet you.
Nice
You
to
all
meet
good?
You. Yeah, all good.
Living the dream.
That's it. Yeah, it's what you were saying is like, you know, I often say it's like the man of the sword and the man of the cloth have always been two sides of the same coin.
For sure.
And they've always worked hand in hand.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at any, whether it's Eastern culture or Western, you look at the thing of the Shaolin.
Right.
You know, they're the same. If
you have the Templars, you have the samurai.
If you want to be a peaceful soul, you have to be dangerous, because people won't allow you to be peaceful. So if you are too right brain, which is peace and loving and creativity, intuition, emotion, all of those things, then you are in effect prey.
Yes.
Because you're not capable of any wrongdoing. If you're complete left brain, which is the mechanical drive forward raider, take everything, do fuck everyone else, which is how the world is run, then you are a predator. So if you are too, you know, if you live by a huge, just try to live by morality totally in this world, you get fucking devoured. You just get destroyed. So what I've realized on this peaceful warrior journey is you've got dark, malevolent, and you've got light, benevolent. And the Holy Trinity in all things is the center point. And the center point where you take the very best of that left brain drive, mechanical go get, but with creative love, care, and empathy, and for care for your fellow man. That's what's missing from the world, care. Well, those two things together, left and right brain cohesion, is how we were intended. But if you look at the institutions that rule the planet, they are all left brain driven completely, purposefully. So their drive, go, get, take. There's no care, compassion. They don't want to create an ecosystem. They want an ecosystem, right? So because of that, there's no right brain balance in government, in policing, in military, in education, in religion. It's all left brain drive. My way or the fucking highway. And that's the way it's been for 500 years. But people now are realizing during this time, which is called the Great Awakening, that they're having a somewhat awakening of their consciousness themselves. We all are. And mine happened in 2020. So if you'd have spoke to me 3 years ago about any of this stuff, I'd have thought you were fucking mad. To be honest to me. But I've realized that there's three types of people. I'll say this and we'll get onto the stuff that we want to talk about. There's three types of groups, if you like. And the mainstream media, which of course is controlled by the so-called global elite, control everything. They control all things, right? So the first narrative is the one that, you know, with the COVID, followed by the Ukraine, followed by the next disaster and the next disaster, which the little sheep that still watch the BBC and reads the newspapers will follow to the letter.
Right, like the trendy outrage.
It's a script.
Trendy this week to care about shit, yeah.
There's a script. Then there's another group of people which are called New Age spiritual people, and they're people that, you know, don't want the reality of the doom and gloom. They just want to be in a little happy place and left alone. So they've got this fake kind of infiltrated New Age spirituality, which is the basic message is, don't worry, don't think, you can't change, sit down, meditate, close your eyes, be happy, and do nothing. So the governmental regime control that narrative where people are doing nothing. And they control the other narrative with the sheep where the people are following what they want them to do. That leaves a middle group. And that middle group has been named conspiracy theorists, a term developed by the CIA on purpose to gaslight people speaking the truth, which is the same reason for political correctness. They're called, oh, it's not very political correct, is it? You can say something true. So the most recent thing I've heard recently, one of the legislations that they want to push is any previous sex offender to a child, once served his term, should have the right to adopt children. Now, this is how crazy the fucking world is, right? So if somebody like me says, you got to be fucking kidding me, then I'm gaslighted as a bigot or a racist, right? And people don't like to be gaslighted because they don't like to be not part of the herd, scrutinized, everyone pointing.
Right.
Well, I'm not that man. I'm the one that says, you know, I'm unique, I'm me. So I'll say, well, fuck you, that's my opinion. And so the conspiracy theorist group, they reckon, are those of us on this planet that are somewhat closer to the truth. And that's all I am. I'm a truth seeker. Do you know what I mean? And a fighter for freedom. That's what I've realized my vocation in this business is. Yeah. And for the last 23 years, I've been building a lot of warriors in the physical sense and people that seriously need, you know, to confidence in their ability to deliver themselves in any area of life. And urban combatives, what I teach the curriculum, because it's difficult. It pushes your boundaries. You will grow if you do it. You know, so it's probably for about 15% of the martial population. Mm-hmm. The rest of the people want to, you know, do either traditional martial arts, combat sport, or what they believe is self-defense, which is the Krav Maga reality-based stuff. Mm-hmm. Now, I teach a lot of Krav Maga instructors from all over the world, and, you know, they all agree on the same thing. It's missing the crucial elements, and the crucial elements are, first of all, the psychology of violence. You need to know that it's fucking ugly and it's destructive and it's scary. You have an expectation. And then you have to have an honest assessment of yourself in terms of self-awareness. So if you look at the way the things are deteriorating in the world,
Mhm.
And that the next card that they will predictively play out will be a food shortage. Well, when people get hungry, people get crazy.
100%.
And there will be civil unrest because they're seeking to incite it now. And with the objective, so how these people work is they create a problem, they let you stew in it, so you're panic stricken, and then they offer you a solution. And then when they give you the solution was the agenda. And you not only thank them for it, but you pay them for it. That's what you're fucking dealing with. Right?
Bad,
So
not a bad strategy.
it could get to a situation. I don't want to, give you a bad day, but it could get to a situation all over the world, globally, where we've got severe civil unrest, lawlessness. There's just a period.
Right.
In which
No, I
case,
don't disagree.
armed home invasion is going to be a big fucking thing, right?
Yep.
So there's a need for us to prepare yourself on, first of all, a mental level. Do you accept that in the lifetime that you have left, there's a high probability that you could potentially face a level 10 deadly force threat? If you're saying no to that, then you live in a fucking ivory tower. Where you're part of the agenda. Because the fact is, in the UK now, particularly with the strategically placed mass migration, you are now likely to face somebody in the street. I've just come back from Amsterdam yesterday. Today morning, I was in Amsterdam City, and it's just feral. It's like feral, like any city, just like street bats everywhere.
Yep.
And what you're likely to face, so there used to be 6 ways in which someone's going to attack you in an aggressive way, right? First 2 are non-physical. So the first way in which a predatory profile will attack you will be through intimidation.
Mhm.
So I could just fucking give you a hard stare and that might intimidate somebody, right? The next would be verbal threatening. I'll fucking cut you up. I'll open you up like a sardine can. All of these kind of street terms. These are the things that they implement first. Intimidation, which is usually presence and appearance, followed by verbal threatening. Most people, particularly so-called modern man of society, that has been purposely conditioned into beta, where he has more concerns for his soy latte and his fucking man bun than he does for standing up as a man that your ancestors would be proud of. That's gone, and that's purposeful. So they've purposely, made modern man, so-called modern man, good man, that works and has a family, unknowingly to themselves, soft. But apex predators still exist, and apex predators exist in the form of psychopaths, criminals, and to be fair, a lot of the people that are coming here have very, very different ways of thinking about using violence that's acceptable in the paradigm they live in, but we would find absolutely unbelievable.
Right.
And so this Hunger Games society thing could happen, in which case you could then answer that question, well, yeah, there is a high probability in the time of life that I have left that I could find myself in a situation like that. Fuck yes, there is. And the second question is, well, how equipped are you on an emotional, psychological level, first of all, because that's where the platform begins, and a physical level? How well prepared are you in terms of emotional software and physical hardware to deal with that fucking problem? And you will, if you are honest with yourself, you'll think, being honest from an emotional point of view, I'd fucking shit myself if I saw 100 immigrants running down a road with melee weapons attacking everyone. I don't know what the fuck I would do. Well, that's a start place. There's no failure. There's only feedback. Right now, no, you can't. So here's some advice. Get fucking educated, get the skills and the knowledge that you need, and start reprogramming this pacified beta program that's been purposely imposed on you, and try and find something from your warrior ancestry. Because it doesn't matter who you are, how far your bloodline goes back, you will find somewhere that you were part of that warrior ethos, because for hundreds and hundreds of years, our ancestors have had to fight just for the right to live on this planet. If you think about it, humans are supposed to be at the top of the food chain. Absolutely not, by the way. But humans are supposed to be the top of the food chain, and we are supposed to be superior. Well, if that's so, how come we're the only living organism on the planet that has to slave to pay to eat and shelter? That doesn't make sense to me. Do you understand? So I have these kind of beliefs, and what's coming cumulatively together, I don't want to swear off track because I do that, is that you need to cultivate not just the physical skills, but you've got to cultivate the emotional software. So to have the preparation stand. So you do this by, first of all, identifying what is it in your life, what's in Nathan's life that he really loves and has drive to live for. Hopefully there's lots of things, because at this time that we've had, you know, particularly with the bullshit COVID and everything else and the lockdowns, there's been a lot of foreboding, a lot of depression, a lot of loss, and people don't think they have anything. So my advice to them was identify what you do have and appreciate them. Live, you know, spend an attitude of gratitude for those things every day. So when I wake up in the morning, I wake up with self-love and gratitude. And I go through the things that I care about and that I'm lucky to have. And if you find it difficult doing that, just imagine them, you don't have them no longer and someone else does, then you would crave for them. And you start to appreciate what you got. So you say, oh, people say, I've lost everything. Well, how could you have lost everything if you've still got a physical voice to speak to me? You're still alive. You know, but you've got to go right back to the values. So what do you want to live for? Well, I want to live my life because there's still loads of things I need to do. And I've got an absolute brotherhood all over the world, because I've taught in 40 countries, that for 3 years I haven't traveled because of the restrictions, and now I am. Now I'm reuniting with, and I'm touching base with everybody, and I've got a lovely wife and a beautiful dog, and I live in a great place. I'm in the forest. I'm fucking blessed. Right, so I have that attitude about things, which is so much better than feeling sorry for yourself, which is been imposed, right? But those things are massively important. They are what I want to live for. Okay, well, if you identify what you want to live for, what would you be willing to stand up and fight for? That. What would you be willing to literally risk your life for? That. What would you be willing to kill for? That. Once you identify the things that you would fight for, then you know where your line in the sand is, so to speak. Your moral compass. Your moral compass shows you that line. So what that also tells me is, I'm not going to fight over a parking space.
Right,
I'm not
100%.
going to fight because you called me an arsehole.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fight because it is. You know what I mean? I'm only going to fight if I'm a cornered animal. And out of an act of sheer desperation. And then the green light's on. And as soon as the green light's on for that, do you know what I mean? Then that malevolent part of me, because trust me, I know malevolence. I'm a benevolent soul. Ask anyone that knows me. And I've always been driven by that. I know as a kid, because I left home and school when I was 11. And I was on the street until I was nearly 17. I was involved in gang violence and football violence. And I met my first wife when I was 16, and I came off the street for a period of time, right? And anyway, I had my first son then, and it started to change my direction around. But I know, dark. You leave home first thing in the morning before anyone gets up at the age of 11 for a reason. So I'll let you fill in the blanks, right? So my whole life was exposed to violence from the beginning. And then my saving grace was martial arts. So I was on a bus in London, and I found this poster magazine called Kung Fu Monthly, and it was all Bruce Lee. And I just saw this cat, and I thought, fuck, man, I want to be like that. And it sparked an interest, and all that was around at that time was traditional. So I started with traditional karate, in judo, and then did some aikido. Then I found boxing, and I went on and on and on and on. But back in 1980, that's all there was. But I loved it, and it gave me a direction. And I never, ever, apart from injuries maybe, and even then I would use visualization, I never stopped training since that age of 11, ever. It was my saving grace, and it's what put me on the right path, you see. But my life and my upbringing exposed me to an environment where I understand predatory behavior. I understand the context of street assault. I understand how it unfolds. You know, and coupled out, I did 14 years on the doors, working as a nightclub doorman, right? I'm in purposeful environments where, when I was building UC back in 1999, I didn't want to teach. And no aspirations to teach at all. I actually thought it was something I couldn't do. And then I just wanted meat puppets. So I just wanted partners that I'll show you everything I've learned and known. But I want to fuck.
I'm going to beat the shit out of you. Yeah.
We'll beat shit out of each other. Seriously. We would keep it up minimal as well. We break down fucking like stud walls in the toilet, the fucking waterworks when the sink went. Yeah, I mean, loads of shit. How we're alive, fuck knows. But that's how it began. And 4 people, like it was 4 people, and then like, oh, tell my mate he's coming along. And all of a sudden it's 15 people. And I'm like, well, okay, well, now I need to get some kind of curriculum. So what's the most important thing? Well, the most important thing is you learn how to, in a physical sense, you learn how to fucking hit hard. But jumping back to the hypothetical situation of asking the average layman that practices self-defense, let's say, are you ready? You know, the things I would say is, once he's identify what it is you would fight for. 2, it's fucking it. What is most important? Freedom. You know, the right for my grandchildren to have children without being inverted and hurt or stopped or murdered or killed. This unfolding of events has certainly put humanity in an unstable place. And if it's not checked, it could go to a place where, you know, literally in the next 50 years, humans will be extinct. You know, I believe that. And I believe that I've got 5 grandchildren, and, you know, I'll stand up for their freedom. So our forefathers, you know, during World War I and World War II stood up for our freedom, right? That's what they fought for. You know, if they saw the way people are just giving it away now, but I digress. Freedom being one of the things I would stand, fight, and potentially kill for. Yes, it would. I would die for that. So once you've identified that, you've began your belief system. So you have to have a belief system that allows you to take part. Loads of people have said to me, look, I've been doing martial arts for years. I remember having fights when I was a kid. But, you know, when the shit in the fan meet, there's something that goes, I just don't know. Well, if you test a lot, and you implement a lot of contact with non-compliance, you'll get desensitized to that shit real quick. Yeah. But most people that just punch something down in my pajamas and just punch air, going back to the early karate days of my era, end up with a full sense of security because they're not hitting anything. You know, you at least need the motor memory to build, to hit things. That's why when Bruce Lee came along and added pad training from boxing to martial arts, it was revolutionary. Nobody wanted it. They didn't want to leave the old program. Right. But he was one of the most conscious beings I've ever, you know, explored in terms of study, and notice how he died early. But he implemented the idea of, well, you've got to hit. Motor memory will go with the majority of what you do. So if the majority of what you do is punching air, that's what's going to come out. You need to make the majority of what you do hitting things fucking hard. Once you've got the ability to develop or generate good body dynamics and impact dynamics, then you need to implement the focus on the emotional side. And the emotional side is giving yourself a green light in the head of when to be preemptive. You know, because people hesitate about hitting first. So my first thing that I teach, understand, there's 3 elements to self-protection. The first is what we call street smarts. Personal security skills. So good observation, you have an understanding of pre-threat cue behavior, you may be pretty good at verbal de-escalation. Anything you can do within your environment to your advantage to mitigate or prevent violence in the first place will be considered street smarts. That's the first element. Second 2 elements of self-protection are both physical. The first is proactive, a proactive dynamic where I initiate. Yeah, action always beats reaction. Remember that, right? And the second element is contingency plans, which you must have. A contingency plan for what I would call counter offense, right? Which means somebody's punching me, I have to deal with that, and now I have to bring the fight back. Someone's grabbed me, I have to deal with this first, and then I bring it back to me. But if you look at the way old martial methods within the guise of self-defense for the street are sold, it all begins with, okay, guys grabbed you, now you must do A, B,
Right. Well, what you just described is what we refer to as the swordsmanship mentality. And the swordsmanship mentality is, you might be a way better swordsman than me, and we're never going to find out. Because if you reach for your sword, I'll just slice you in half. I'm not going to wait for you to fucking pull it out. Yeah. And
I notice you use a lot of these kind of martial ethos quotes. Right. Is that your drive? Does that drive you?
Yeah, it's a way that I understand it. You know, like I lived in Japan for a while, and
Oh, you're so
my,
lucky. I always
my,
wanted to go to Japan.
my
Japan is my
wife's
must-go place.
my wife's
You watched
Japanese,
it? Oh, really?
and
Yeah.
so like it's always been the lens that I understand it from. It's like the language that I've always seen it through that
Good.
kind of samurai
You
lens.
found
So
how it makes sense to you. I get it. Yeah.
so I see it as like if you really follow that thread all the way to that sort of samurai core, and you go, well, what really was that level of violence? And when everyone's walking around, it's Sengoku Jidai, they've all got fucking swords on them, and it was like one cut and that's it. And it
Yeah.
wasn't you pull out your sword and we'll see whose dick's bigger. It was, if you flinch, I just kill you. That's it. It's like
It goes way. It goes way beyond that. It goes way beyond before that encounter happened, or before the first thing that happened. It's already began in their mind, and in their mind, they're already dead to the world.
Yes,
they're already dead. They contemplated death. So it sounds macabre, but Hagakure. They thought about death in so many ways and perceived it, and know that the soul's eternal and goes on. So it's not hurdle.
well,
it's not a
right. So
that's what allowed Musashi to deal with like the very last jewels that he had with nothing more than a wooden bokken.
Right.
He didn't even have the real sword. Look, I tell you what, we've got about 30 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Do you want me to just quickly top and tail that theme I was giving you? Yeah, because I want.
Yeah. Come at me. Yeah. Give me the whole piece.
So, right. So the three elements to self-protection are, as I said, street smarts or a proactive dynamic, and then contingency plans for the reactive dynamic. Whereas everything else that I've seen in a martial sense begins here. Begins with the guy's grabbed you, now you must do this. Well, you've got to stop and ask yourself, well, how did he get close enough to grab me? It's not fucking Star Trek. It didn't just materialize. There was a beginning, a middle, and an end. The beginning is he comes into my field of view and he identifies me as a target. Why didn't I see that? What was happening with my own lack of awareness while he was doing that? If I'd have been aware and I saw him checking me out, I can recognize the moment that attention of the environment turns into intention. There's a moment, and if I'm switched on and aware and understanding of that, then I'm going to look for it when I'm out and about. Now, if I see that guy won't even select me as a target. I've deactivated the situation or mitigated the circumstances, because now even if he does walk towards me, I'll put up a position of situational control, a non-violent posture that allows me a boundary between me and him, and also unobtrusively sets up my first shot. So straight away, if he comes into my radar because he's triggered my instincts and this comes up, he's not necessarily going to pick up on that because I'm not making it static. I'll chuckle my hands and go, yo, bud, what do you want? What do you need, man? What do you need? I'll work like that. Now, if he comes forward and presses that, just stay there, bro, stay there. And if he goes, oh, why you got your hands up? I goes, well, I don't fucking know you, mate. You're making me nervous. So what do you want? Now I'll go more to a conscious level. So here I'm using verbal interaction, you see? And I'll use a sterner or slightly higher volume, pitch, and tone than him, so that I create a mismatch with him. And if he can pick up on the instinct of that, he'll follow and I'll de-escalate. I mean, you've got to be, de-escalation is an art in itself, but you need to know how to potentially talk something down. But if not, I'm in a position now where my main artillery preemptive strike, let's say it's the left cross, whatever the fuck it is, doesn't matter, is lined up on his chin and he ain't even seen it. Well, that will give you the opportunity, if you can keep your cool during that potentially adrenal rising engagement, it will give you the opportunity to preempt first. It's there, it's fleeting. It's not there for long, but it's there. Depending on his introduction. He's come up to me. Imagine he's come up to me. You've got a fucking problem. Got fucking eye contact with me. That fucking you and me, you got a problem. And I'll be like, mate, I ain't got no problem with you. Calm yourself down. I don't want no trouble. I'll be like that. And in that moment, I will define where he's just a good guy having a bad day, whether he's made a mistake or if he's a criminal with an agenda. And if he's if he's the latter one, a criminal with an agenda, I'm not going to wait till he moves. I'm not going to wait till he does something to me, because the something he may do to me will result in the form of injury.
Right.
And that won't allow me to retaliate. So if you wait for confirmation of the assault, that confirmation will come in the form of injury to you. He will headbutt, he will grab you, he will do something like that, in which case I'm going to preempt. Now I'm acting off my intelligence, powerful intelligence, my instinct, which is most important. I'm a street kid. I was on the street from 11. If my instincts told me to turn left, I'll turn left, and they've never let me down. And I will preempt, and I will take you off the fucking planet. Now, in the best world, I hit you with one clinical preemptive shot, then I attached you, so I would hit and attach. Purpose for attaching is numberful, but one of the reasons that I will attach in the street is so that I can potentially strive to control your descent when I've knocked you out. Because people die. I mean, you said about, I was in Sydney, I've taught in Australia 4 times, but I was in Sydney when they were doing that nasty sucker punch shit from behind.
Yeah, man.
Right? I was there. I saw the campaign. There's an Aussie boxer there that was saying, you know,
Danny Green, yeah.
Yeah, Danny Green. What did they call it? They called it coward punch.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what they call it. And that's exactly what.
It's an actual thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But what it was actually in its height when I was over there, and that was about 2013, something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, the headline in the newspaper is the same. Man punched in the head, one punch dies. No, it wasn't a punch, it was a pavement.
Yes.
I tell my students, look, I want you to protect yourself. I want you to avoid, de-escalate, mitigate as best you can. But if you have to deal with something, go first. But here's the thing. Well, I want you to protect yourself. I don't want you to go to prison doing it.
Right.
So if I've got my hands here, I'll strike and I'll reach. So imagine smash and grab, and I'll do it in literally a half beat. Yeah, bam, when it's done. But that's on the back and coming forward, and this is poised. This gives me a number of things. First of all, when I grabbed you, it's like a tactile sensory antenna.
Yes.
So if you've ever done any Wing Chun, any Filipino martial arts with Hugh Bud, any sensitivity or energy type drill, you'll know that shit, right?
Yep.
So I can feel. So if I feel him now, if I've hit him clean and he's clinically unconscious, then I will feel a move back and I'll feel a slump in body weight, which tells me he's unconscious. Now, even if I lose grip of him, I will take some of the impetus out of his fall. That makes the difference. But in the ideal, I'll not only guide him down, I'll actually turn him so he's on his side, so that I could argue post-event in court that I actually put him in a recovery position, so there was a duty of care. Do you understand?
Yes. Yep.
The other reason that I want to attach is because if this one shot wasn't enough, then you're going to stagger and move back, and we're going to separate by 3 feet. Which you know in martial sport is combat sport range, right? It's not the street. If you've got 3 feet in the street, fucking run. But if I've hit you and you've staggered back, now we've got 3 feet. Depending on his personality profile, 1 or 2 things are going to happen. He's either going to go, mate, I don't want no more of that. Or he's going to go, no, I'm going to fucking kill you. Do you know what I mean? You don't know. You don't want to hope. You don't want to take the chance and hope he's not big. You want to do something immediately. So if you preemptively struck, that's based on the knowledge that you had the honest belief that your life is in imminent danger. If I now grab him, right, and he is still on his feet, then that tells me he is still a threat. And now, of course, I'm attached. I can just repeat my strikes. So think about hit him in the head, grab him. Hit him repeatedly in the head till he's unconscious. Picture that in your head. That could be one shot. Palm strike, grab, palm, palm, palm. It could be punch, grab, punch, punch, punch. Might change the tool. He might cover the high line target after the first shot. Now I've got to go low with me. Take the principle. Strike first, attach to the subject so he can't get away from you. And you've got purchase to bring on to another shot. And keep attacking any available target till that person is no longer ambulatory and no longer a threat. That's an asymmetrical dynamic, an asymmetrical model for use of force. That's what that is. Me, more of me, fuck you, finished. Got it?
Yeah, love it.
As opposed to, I don't do anything, I wait for confirmation of his assault. Him, I'm fucked.
Yep.
You understand?
Yeah.
Now, how you think, understand this. I'll give you one lesson in 20 minutes. It would be this. You'll be familiar with NLP and modern learning technologies, but how you think affects how you feel. And how you feel affects what you do. And what you do affects the results you get back. So how you use internal dialogue consciously and subconsciously unknowing to you in your brain is extremely important. If you've been relatively successful in your career as a martial artist and a businessman or anything else, right, and you haven't identified how, you might call it luck, I would say it's nothing lucky about it. You're running a pattern of thoughts in your head that is productive for you because you are what you think you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to, well, no, that never works out. I can't do that. So let's take that concept of how you think and apply it to what I'm talking about here, which is methods of counter-violence. First of all, the terminology. In linguistics, particularly in English language, which is the most deceptive language, incidentally, do you know there's 140 plus words to describe the word deception inside of English? It's really strange, but I digress. In English terms, if you use the word self-defense, and then you cross-reference and use a thesaurus, look at as many options as you can to see what does actually defense mean. And it comes down to the fact that if you are defending, you're fucking losing.
Yes.
Because if you are defending, you are already under attack. Somebody is attacking you because they took initiative.
Mm-hmm.
They'll keep attacking you because they're going to exploit that advantage. And you are constantly on the back curve because you haven't caught up yet. So if you understand the OODA loop, observe, orientate, decide, and act. I haven't observed the second stimulus, let alone the third one that's coming now. So there's no time to catch up. So self-defense means you were defending. If you were defending, as one of my instructors, Dennis Martin, used to say, defending is the art of losing slowly. You know, you are fucking losing. So the term self-offense would sound like the opposite. And you must have heard the old adage. They said it to us since the days of the Spartans. Now, my interest in the historics of our warrior ethos is more Western. So I have roots to Viking and Scandinavia and also Highlander. But warriors are warriors, and it's all the same. You know, there is that dark and light fusion where they've only become warriors because they've had to fight to protect everything they love. Do you know what I mean? And that kind of warrior ethos is really, really important to me. But if you look at the Vikings or the old sagas that talk about such battles, because you were saying, imagining what it must have been like for a samurai to draw and cut once and all the rest of it. Imagine what it must have been like to enter a battlefield where you've got a sword and a fucking axe in this hand, or you've got a weapon, melee weapon and a shield, and you are surrounded and you have just got multiple armed assailants with weapons. I mean, imagine the balls that would have took. The drive, first of all, for even entering into that battle would have come from the nurturing of building a warrior race, such as the Spartans' idea. But it would be based around the beliefs of what would I be willing to fight for?
Mm.
What would I be willing to kill for? What would I be willing to die for? What would I give my life to protect? And of course, that's the warrior. I mean, you can read old texts and, you know, you can imagine what it's like, but tune into that. Go into your heart self, because, you know, your soul has been in that place before. You know, it knows. I know mine does. Mm. I know that my life, the program almost that I'm running, the character that I'm running has been before many times and has been a warrior. Do you know what I mean? I know I come from that kind of warrior ethos. I'm sorry, this is how I communicate. This is how it comes out of my.
I love it.
So I shift from one thing to another.
I feel like, honestly, I feel like I'm just looking at an older version of myself.
Right.
So it's the right kind of crazy. I'm like totally getting it. Yeah, man, I'm all over it.
So the idea of defending is you're losing. So yeah, you know, it starts with the old way in which karate was taught. You know, block, punch. Yeah, it wasn't that way. It wasn't intended that way. This was actually strike straight up under the throat to lift the field, and then you smash the Adam's apple. That's how combative it was. But we were lied to and diluted to by everything. Why should that be any different? But the fact of the matter is, how you use language is really important. So you'll see somebody start a drill that's not really right. We're going to do a self-defense drill, right? Yeah. So right, John, if you come over here, John, you're the aggressor, you're the attacker, And Cindy, yeah, you're the victim, right? So like, here's how we do the drill. I'd walk out of that class right there and then, right? The person doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Now, first of all, you have empowered the person that you're facing because he's the attacker, the aggressor, yeah? And you just disempowered yourself because you're the victim, you know? And you almost see, if you play good role play, she'll be like a good victim and he'll be like a good aggressor.
Yeah.
You see my physiology change?
Yeah.
So your physiology, your non-verbal body language, where you put yourself is the absolute mirror part of your emotional state or your mood. So if you're depressed and glum, you'll be here. If you're elevated and happy, you'll be here. So that's why they say put your physiology where you want your mind to be. So if I don't want to face this situation as a victim, I'm going to keep my body language like that. I'm here, fucking walking through hell like I own the place. Does that make sense? And your thinking, your pre-fight perspective in this moment, I'm the biggest fucking predator in this alley. Now, that doesn't matter if that's true or not.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if that's true or not. If I believe it to be true, it's operational. Because every part of my emotional, physical, psychological, and spiritual fucking ethos is putting a spear focused on what I'm about to put it through. Now, if you are not a stupid criminal, if you are not a stupid predator, let's not say criminal, but street predator, most street predators will see. So I was walking through Amsterdam city centre, Central Station yesterday, which is a haven for this kind of thing. You've got tourists everywhere. And I was with Michiel Mulder, and Michiel Mulder is is UC Netherlands. I was just there teaching a seminar together. So he's one of my protege lads, but really, really great. And he's, a unit, he's a fighter, and me and him and this other guy, Eric, who's been with us for years, fucking tall black dude, built out of stone. But me in particular are older, and Michael is younger. But we all clocked it. So like you've got the panhandlers and the scouts looking out for the easy next wallet lift or bag snatch that they're going to do because pickpocketing is so right. And you make eye contact with one of them and they'll look at you and they'll just go, all right, boss, like that. It's like predatory recognition. One predator sees another. Yeah. And we all three of us, we got it all day yesterday.
Yeah.
So criminals aren't stupid. Right. If you put it forth like, I'm not going to be no easy fucking meal for you. Go and find an easy meal because I fucking bite back. Yeah. You don't want that. You really don't want that. And now you put that across, doesn't need to be scared, should be confident. And it should have a sampling of righteous indignation attached to it. How fucking dare you come here? What do you think? I'm an old man. I want to fuck you up, you little cunt. Do you know what I mean? You've got to have that kind of in your head. But if you're, most of the time when you operate with anyone, I operate with anyone, I'm polite, I'm articulate, I'm careful not to use profanity, and I will do my best as a master NLP practitioner to get rapport with you and talk you down. And I'm a pretty good speaker. There's many things I'm shit at, but pretty good at doing that, right? And I can de-escalate things. But if you get the guy that's not just, normally good guy, have a bad day, he is a bad guy with an agenda and victim pickings are slim and only you are there, well, then he will broke. And a big part of street smarts is recognizing the interview. So when someone comes up to you and says something, so I'm not saying to you every time someone says, you think about you've got the time that they're a criminal. What I'm saying to you is that they will use that kind of entry.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So the first part is the street smarts. The second part is proactive physical dynamic, where basically the first physical thing I would teach you is blitzkrieg. So we teach fire principles. So regardless of what you favor in terms of tools, hands or feet, we don't kick any higher than the groin in the street when you're full of adrenaline. It's hard enough to stay on 2 feet, let alone one. We tend not to get too hooked up into trying to lock the limbs or anything like that. We will ballistically manipulate the limbs and put the body somewhere so I can hit it again. But I want to get caught up in tying myself up, because you've got to work from the adage that any situation you find yourself in, 1, there's a weapon, 2, there's more than one. And what you're seeing now is multiple assailants with a weapon. And if you're trying to get an armbar, you're already dead. Let's not fuck about here. So clinical knockout is what we're talking about. Strike, attach, repeatedly strike. Just keep beating any target till the subject is disrupted. Your thinking in that terms when I approach this potential situation is, I'm expecting you to be a level 10 threat. means I'm willing in my brain to implement a level 11 response.
Right.
And I've trained a level 11 response, right? So that's what we've trained for. I've tried to go above and beyond what I need. Hopefully I will never need it. But maybe I do need it once, in which case it's better to have it and not need it than have needed it and not had it.
Right.
So if I approach this situation in my head with, I have a preparation to go to 11, and then I've got a chance at dealing with the threat. There's no guarantees, I could still lose, but there's a good chance. Whereas if I've only trained, let's say to the level of about 6 or 7, where some of these methods out there, they just teach pain compliance and all that and different stuff. I've never actually trained or thought about how I would engineer this strike to a much higher level use of force. It's not entered in the head of the student. So on a violence volume dial, they've only trained to 5. But if you've only trained to 5 and you meet 10, you're fucked. How can you turn up what you haven't got? You can't.
Right.
If I train for 11 and you are 10, I've still got a shot. But here's usually what happens. Not always, but usually. I'll give you an example. Some guy who is known as a bully. He's a big, nasty bully. He's bad family, gangster. Had gone into this pub during the day before the doorman come on. And he's gone into this pub and just got in. He's been drinking all day. So when a doorman turn up, free doorman turn up on the evening shift, he's still there drunk because he's a big man. He's absorbed the drink, right? He's just nasty, and everyone's scared to get him out, right? So they wait until my team got there and I got there, right? And then it was my responsibility to get him out because in this club I was the head doorman. And I knew his reputation, and I won't allow Chinese whispers to fuck with my head because, oh, mate, that's mate, his brother, mate, he's a boxer. He's a boxer, was he a boxer? Couldn't fucking box eggs now, could he, when he's unconscious? Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, but I won't allow that. Everyone wants to do that. Oh, that's so-and-so's brother.
Yeah, well, look out. Yeah.
No, my answer to that was, oh, yeah, well, fuck him. He should have tread more carefully. You know what I mean? But the point of me telling you that is I had in my head that this guy was a bad dude. He was much heavier than me. So I thought I'd have my work cut out. So my idea was, right, I'm just going to clinch his head and drive him onto a few knees, Do we have a ballistic clinch in the combative side? This will be a tie clinch. Well, actually, I'm striking here and I'm striking here and I'm putting you in. You see slapping, and I'm going to bring your face right into my shoulder. And I'll do it very explosively. That's just taking your high line attention. From there, the object in my brain, I was just going to drive 3 massive tie knees into it. Now, you think about the consequences of that in terms of cause effect. You should know the medical implications that your martial strikes could have. This man's been drinking all day. He's got a bladder like a beach ball.
You drive a few knees into those.
If I hit him in the pelvic bone and hit his pubic bone, it will fragment and lacerate his bladder. And that's emptying into him. That was the level I was willing to go, right? But literally, the second I concussively clinched him, he felt like cream cheese. He just knees dropped and he dropped. And it was done. And there was no knees required. So what I'm telling you in that case is just because I went into the altercation with a preparation of 11 doesn't mean I'm going to use 11.
Right.
Because I have it under complete voluntary control. I probably clinched him with that intent and recognized he wasn't what he thought he was. And I turned my response right down to 5. I even put him in the recovery position and called for 2 doormen to escort him out.
Yep.
Do you see where I'm going with that? So have that level of ability on a switch. I need a level of potential aggression and violence that will totally fucking eclipse your potential. And I need to hide it from you with a smile so you don't know I've got it. Because the 3 things that I want to implement are the principles of close quarter battle, which are surprise, speed, and violence of action. So Blitzkrieg would implement a solid preemptive strike followed by grabbing, maybe 3 further strikes to the head followed by grabbing you, kneeing you, slamming you on the floor. And in the highest level of use of force, I would stomp on the back of your brainstem.
Right.
So my skill set would end your life.
Yes.
You must train for that level. And remember that this is combatives. Combatives is at the extreme end of the self-protection scale because it's for such a critical instant. That's what it's for. That's why I also used to teach military and police and law enforcement. I've worked with Navy SEALs, I've worked with many special units, but primarily for civilians, you would teach a level of civilian self-protection that would be designed, whatever you do, to facilitate your escape immediately.
Right.
But if that includes you being a cornered animal where someone's going to kill you, you need to know how to stop them potentially. Does that make sense?
Yes.
With a knife, there's no guarantees with a knife, right? I've been in 6 knife situations in my life, in my youth and in my later life. And I'm still here to tell the tale, but I learned lessons from things I did wrong and things I did right. Dealing with a knife, there's no guarantees, and you most likely will be. So you must have in your brain, at least, the willingness that if this cunt is going to kill me, and the only way I get home to my family and continue my life as is my sovereign right, then I may need to take his life. I may need to.
Yeah, 100%.
So you have to, so all that changes, the skill set doesn't change. The targeting changes. So I want you to picture this in your head, because I don't know if you're familiar with my material. Imagine I've hit him in the head and I've grabbed him and I'm side on to him now. So I've hit him and I've hit him again and then I've grabbed him, right? And that's most likely because if he's still on his feet after 3 strikes, he probably moved or he's probably covered up.
Yep.
Even a literal micro movement of the head could put me off target. Hence the reason that there's a need for an accumulative effect. Yep. So strike, attach. In that moment that I'm attached, I've assessed, I told you, it was a sensory antenna. If he drops now, there's no repeated shot. I turn the volume down. If conversely he's still on his feet and still a threat, then I'll feel him pushing and pulling on my arm. I'm in a struggle now. That tells me that I need to continue my assault. So understand, when you're in that fight dynamic, you're no longer cognitive. You're in limbic brain, which is only capable of feeling and doing, right? You've gone to mammalian brain. That's where you are. So your cognitive ability to decide and think is impaired. It's disrupted. So from a point of view now, what you're the information that your brain's getting that tells you need to keep motoring now is tactile. I can feel the struggle. So let's say that I hammer fist him and I bury an elbow, and now he's unconscious. Well, now I put him down. But let's say I hammer fist and I bury an elbow, and now it covers his head, but he's still on his feet. Well, now I've got low and I'll put 2 knees into his groin. When I put 2 knees into his groin, it'll snap his head energy forward. I'll use that energy to drag him down to the floor like a snatch, which comes from Greco-Roman.
Yep.
Now, in the worst case scenario, I'd bounce his head off the concrete and stomp on his brainstem because I want to kill him quickly. So you might say, well, where does that belong? Because context dictates content. Right. So I'll give you an example. Armed home invasion, middle of the night, 3 armed men, someone's already carting off your wife and this cunt's got a machete. When you put him down, because you're in a good position, you need to make sure he doesn't get back up. Logical? Now let's take that to a street situation that's not so severe, but this guy still wants to hurt me. Well, now when I hit him in the groin and I put him on the floor, I don't accelerate his head into the pavement. I control his descent, but I put him on the floor. Now let's say he starts to try and get up and start again. Well, now I'll stomp on his calf or his ankle. So now he's got to crawl to catch me. So there's scope within this violence volume dial for differing rules of engagement. Police officers need to arrest, transport, and interview. Door security need to eject unwieldy patrons, and be a filter system to not let the shit in the door. A close protection operative needs to protect his principal. You know, a military soldier may be on crowd control or may be on assassination. There's any number of rules.
Detention and around there as well.
Combative supply. Where they are most dumbed down is if I worked before with psychiatric patients that have hospital orderlies. So the hospital orderly has to restrain the patient because there's such mitigation issues, you can't even put a thumbprint bruise on them. Do you understand? Well, that's fine because the combative skill set will work for that also. So I'll give you an example of a head manipulation. If I strike you in the back of the head with my elbow as I'm grabbing your face, I would then rotate your head. This is called a chin rip. Now I could place the hand in on you, turn your head whilst I turn your whole body safely, put you on the floor as the doctor's giving you the injection, reassuring you it's fine, everything will be okay. So here I've used this head manipulation to take you down and calm you so that you can be put under control, right? That's one low-level example of a ballistic manipulation of using the head, yes?
Yeah.
Another example might be I use it in a fight. Maybe I'm in a confined situation, realms of a phone box in a guy's face. Now I'll ballistically strike with this and loosely strike his face when I grab it. Now I'll rip his head around with a little bit more contour. I might even bounce his head off the wall from here.
Yeah, it's a favorite.
Right? I'll do it quite ballistically so he feels it, but I'll still control his turn. I won't let his neck over rotate. Conversely to that, Special Forces Sentry Operation need to remove a guard. When they smash it into the arm, rotate as fast as you can so you caught a second neck turn, break the neck as quickly as possible. And then just to make sure you stomp on it with a boot. Do you see how the same skill set can be turned right down or right up? So the skill doesn't change. All that changes is your choice of target.
Right.
And you need to understand, like I said, context dictates the content of use of force that you use. In closing, I'll just say this quick. Although what we are practicing, so people say, what's combatives? They say, well, I like your style. It's not style. It's not system.
Right.
So styles and systems are programs. So imagine this in a computer technology jargon analogy. The curriculum for getting to your first Dan grade in Wadaroo karate is a structured program. It doesn't evolve, it's not organic, it doesn't adapt, it doesn't grow, it's a program. It's a system, it's a style. Right? Well, as soon as you stylize or systemize something, you just put it in a box, shut down the lid and nailed it shut. It's got no room for growth. It's like a vehicle that can only do 55 miles an hour. It's governed at 55 miles an hour. It's never going any faster. Can't expand its consciousness, right? But as a martial student that had more of an eclectic brain, so the very first is a guy called Edward Barton, who was in the 1800s, just before the build-up to World War I, put some methods of Western boxing, Japanese jiu-jitsu, the old Japanese jiu-jitsu, and savate, but what was le boxe français, which is what we know as savate, but défense de la rue, which was the street art. So he took some of that, he took some of boxing, and then he took la canne, which was the cane that they would use.
That's Bartitsu, isn't it?
Bartitsu, right? So it's an eclectic system. So my point was, Edward Barton, that developed Bartitsu, was the first Bruce Lee, right? In terms of eclectic mind, yes. And then Bruce Lee came around and done it. Many, many others have done it. And since then, there's been freedom to do it. But previously to that, there wasn't. People want to stay in the box because of the traditionalists. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you know, in your training, you've got to take understanding and sources from everywhere. Study, it's right to the point of study human behavior. You know, just sit in a coffee shop and watch your back to the wall, drink your coffee and watch walking around. And ask yourself, put your mind in a predatory mindset. So imagine I was, you know, fucking desperate. Now I need to get at least £500 in by the end of the day. Who am I going to rob first? So if you ask your brain a question, it's a question answering machine. It will look, it will select. And if it says, oh, he looks good, then identify why he looks good. What is he doing that makes him an attractive target? Well, he's not paying attention to his environment. He's on his phone with his buds in and he's living within his own head, not outside of his head. Oh, that makes him attractive because constantly coming. He's also alone. Alone's always good. 3 things a criminal will look for. So know the predatory optic. Use this in your next class, right? Predatory optic. There are 3 primary things that a criminal profile will look to before he selects a target. If he gets all 3, it's fucking Christmas. All right. The first is weakness. Some kind of weakness. Now, that could be physically infirmed. You're walking with a limp, you've got a crutch, you're old, you've got your arm in a sling. But more often than not, it's psychological, demonstrated. You know, there's that weakness where people just move slowly, lift their eyes below eye line. Don't notice me walk small and all that kind of thing. So you victim-like body language. Bottom line is, like food, you get fucking eaten, right?
Yeah,
so weakness is the first thing. Second thing is they're switched off, they're detached. You know, the FBI call condition white, your victim state. So they're oblivious to anything going around. Well, if you're oblivious to anything going around because you've got no awareness, then you're a good fucking target.
Situationally
right?
unaware.
Yeah. So hence the need to live in yellow. Condition yellow is a relaxed, alert awareness. But they have no awareness, no attention in the environment. Final thing is alone. You know, there's safety in numbers. And, you know, no matter who you are, there's safety in numbers. So if they find all things, first one was some kind of weakness, either physical or emotional. Second one was distracted, detached from the herd, completely fixated and switched off. And the last one is alone. We can't always control if you're alone, but if you're teaching a class of people and there's ladies there, you say, if you go out with girls, go to the toilet together. You know, don't leave. Don't let her walk up the road for a taxi. Stay together. Those kind of things belong there. But yeah, that's it. You understand how the predator operates. And I understand how the predator operates because I've been one.
Well, we do it. We do it, don't we?
Yeah.
In the on the doors, right? It's like, hey man, why don't you come over here? Come over here and chat to me. You separate him. He's not all of a sudden he deflates. Like he's not with his group anymore.
So that's just a tactic. So I teach that tactics to cops when I used to teach police. I don't teach police anymore. But divide. And so I'll give you a good example of that. This guy, he's refusing to pay for his drink. He's being aggressive and rude. And he's got two mates with him. And his two mates are like his little testicle minnows that laugh when he does something.
Yeah.
No, I'll be ready, man. He needed to leave. So here's a strategy I employed. It never failed me, right? You remember this strategy. So I walked up to him. So I need to have a little word in your shell. Would you mind coming with me? And he goes, I ain't fucking going nowhere. You got something to say in front of my mates. All right, he went like that. I went, what, you need your little fucking mates to help you? You're too fucking scared to come around the corner and let me have a word in your ear. What are you made of? Now he looks a cunt if he doesn't leave his mates. Fuck's sake, I ain't got all day. Come on. Now I'll start walking and I'll beckon him. He has to follow. He has to.
Yeah.
As soon as he follows now, if he doesn't follow, he looks a cunt. So as soon as he follows now, I'll position him so his back's to his two friends, but I can see his two friends. And I'll be in front, I'll be out of earshot. I'll go, look, mate, I don't know if you're having a bad day or what, you're just being a cunt. This is nothing personal. This is how I earn my bank, right? So let's not make it personal, right? I don't care what you tell your mates. You can tell your mates you're a friend of my brother's or something like that, and you're going to leave because you know me, right? If you don't, I'm going to kick living fuck out of you in front of your two fucking girlfriends. You don't want that. So would that be all right then? I'll take his hand, I'll shake it. I'll go, thanks, mate. I appreciate it. Like that, before I've given him a chance to answer. I've told him what the fucking crack is. I've already seen on his face that he's like that. And now he'll go back to his mates and say, take your mates and fuck off. Nice one. See you later. See you later. But like that as he's walking out. And he'll walk back to his two friends and he'll go, he knows me, brother. Yeah, no, he's sound. Now we're staying here anyway. Coming in. Yeah, see you later. A bit like that. So I've allowed him to save face. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I've separated from the herd, where if I tell him consequences, he can't, is a power play. You know, some people would rather get kicked the shit out of or risk getting kicked the shit out of than embarrass themselves. So I've taken that out of the equation. Like, no embarrassment now. You've got a choice. You can act the cunt still and let the big man in front of him, in which case, trust me, mate, this is how I earn my bank.
Yeah.
You know, what do you do for a living? This is my life. You know? Yeah. Or, you know, we can play a little game. You can go and tell your mates you know me. I'm very grateful and you're going to do me a favour and you're going to leave because you know me. Would that be all right? Brilliant. Thanks ever so much. See you later. And they'll walk off. And I've allowed him to redeem. The only one who knows is me and him.
Yeah.
And it stays between me and him.
Brilliant.
And so that's one strategy. I used to do other things because I can't stand bullying. If I was at the head of a door and there's a queue, one in, one out, you'd always see a line of people. And quite often, lads to get together will separate and find a girl and split up and then get together inside. But you know that one. But there's always like a bunch of lads where it's probably alpha, beta, a few omegas, and you've got a little, and he's got his mate around there like, you know, making him the fool guy.
Yeah,
embarrassing him. Like he took his cap off, put it on, knocked it off again. Right, and I see that. I walk down and I'm listening to says his name's Jerry or something, Andy. And I walk down the queue. I went, Andy, fuck me, is that you? What are you doing? Fucking queuing here. Just come straight to the door, I'll let you in. Put my arm around him and walked him off. They went and walked forward. I went, not you, you wait. And then I walked him in the door. I went, nice to see you. How you going? He's, no. Put him around the corner. He's like, I think you made a mistake. You don't know me. I goes, no, I didn't make a mistake. I said, he's treating you like a criminal. He goes, one thing I want to teach you quick, that's why I pulled you separate. People will only treat you the way you let them. Put your stall out. Don't let him treat you that way. I said, you can tell him if I let him in. Do you think I should let him in? Oh, yeah, let me in. Oh, you can tell him when I let him in. I'll give him 5-10 minutes, make him stew a bit. Yeah, I'll go and get yourself a drink at the bar. You can tell him that you know me, you know my family. And, you know, I'll get, you know, and what that will do, that will give him an opportunity to go up an echelon in his own social status. Didn't cost me anything.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I don't like to see bullying. He was elated, made his world, you know? And he played it out, and now his mates are treating him different. So I taught him a lesson that hopefully he took forward into life. Does that make sense? You know, and that is what UC is all about. You know, that I don't just teach people self-protection skills. Of course I do. I mean, all the way through this conversation, we've gone from talking about the dynamics of self-protection to the philosophies that I implement to how you should use language, etc. Right.
Yeah.
So there's lots of stuff inside it all because it's a journey path. But finishing quick with I want to reiterate on the language thing. I said to you, rather than use you're selected, you're the victim and you're the aggressor. Change how you use your dialogue. Right? Change it so you can keep it really neutral. So you can say, right then, Jody, you are selected target, not victim. Selected target. It's neutral. And you are problematic subject. Problematic subject, selected target, neutral, no emotional attachment, right? Not even subconsciously, right? Whereas before it was aggressor, victim. Get it? Well, how can I reverse that dynamic? This is how I reverse that dynamic. I start by reprogramming how they think. So many self-defense instructors teach their students how not to be victims. That's not what I do. I teach my students how to be fucking predatory.
Yes.
How to be the biggest predator in the room, but I make them understand where that belongs. So it goes back to the Peterson idea, regardless of what anyone thinks of him, is that a good man must be a dangerous man. Else, how are you going to protect what you love stood behind you? So I'm a good man, but I'm a fucking dangerous man. And that's the persona of that warrior monk that we start this conversation with, right? So, but how I can create that in my thinking is this. So I will use the dialogue to empower the person doing the drill, as opposed to disempower them by calling them a victim. So I could call them a selected target, or I might just say, as I'm fond of saying, right, you're the one that's going to fucking take care of business. Clear? Yeah. Right. And he is, so instead of aggressor, predator, attacker, he is meat.
Yeah, the food, yeah.
Right, straight away now, they're like, they've gone from like that in the normal drill from before when she's the victim to,
yeah.
do you know what I mean? To this kind of seething, quiet Hannibal Lecter. Not that I'm saying you should be psychopathic. No, I am saying that to adopt the emotional traits of a sociopath during the time where you need to deal with an extreme level of violence would be useful.
Yeah, that's
the only
protein source. That's just protein.
I'll talk to you again about, you see this T-shirt, can't you? That, right?
Yes.
It's the beast within, right? I want to talk to you about that at some point, because it's like people have struggled developing in training to get aggressive.
Yes.
You know, so you've got to kind of trick the circuits in the brain somehow. So one of the ways in which you can do it, you can say, I'm going to give you the analogy. This is an acting class, and you're budding wannabe would-be actors, and this is a Martin Scorsese film, and you're here to do this script, which just happens to be, you've got to be a badass for about half an hour. So the best badass wins, all right? So they might go, yeah, I can do that. Now they'll start to pretend to be aggressive or do anything else in a much more comfortable way. Does that make sense? Yeah. Or, as a better method, I can encourage them over a period of time to develop an alter ego, what Richard Grannon calls a supra state.
Right.
So develop an alter part of your ego, part of your personality that
That's what I do.
Massively capable of dealing with violence. So think about the last person you want to fight and model him. Yeah. And imagine him as your sole protector. And he didn't have the hesitation of, I hope this works. He was like, I can't wait to hit you with it. Let me go. Let me off the lead. This kind of. It's not rage, it's rage with reason. You're in complete control of it. I'm just telling you this persona. He's like, will I get beaten up? Or will there be consequences? Or will I have to go to court? Or will the police officers come? He's not destroying what he's going to potentially do with the hurdles. There's no fucking hurdles. Let me at it. Right? Now, this person doesn't belong in an everyday 24/7 society, i.e. in your personality. So you've got to compartmentalize it. So my beast within, if you like, lives down a very long corridor. And at the end of this metal doored room.
Yeah.
And he lives inside of that room chained to the wall. It's not as bad as it thinks. He's well fed, he's well nurtured, he's looked after, he's entertained, but that's where he lives. And he only comes out if and when.
Yeah.
But where he does come out all of the time is in my training.
Yes.
So I encourage somebody to make an alter ego personality. They can give him a name. It's funny, they give him loads of names. And so let's say you call him, I don't know, Jack. Yeah, I called Jack in. Jack was present. Oh, good. He took care of it. Fuck yeah, he took care of it. So it's that kind of thing. So every time she's going to hit the pads or do something or enter in a simulation or a scenario or do anything else, she's Jack. And Jack only belongs in training. You pull him out. And when you pull him out enough, you start to adopt his traits.
Yes.
He only belongs in training and in the street if you ever really, really, really needed it. So we've been experimenting a lot with that idea of cultivating like an alter ego personality. It actually comes from sports psychology.
Yeah.
So you can, if you want to be a better golfer, then you emulate Tiger Woods. You imagine Tiger Woods steps into you and takes charge of you today, possesses you for this duration of this shot. Now, you're not going to get a shot like Tiger Woods, but you will demonstrably get a fucking improvement in what you did before.
Yep.
Do you understand? That's the same.
That's the perfect description. Like that perfectly describes the process whenever I would have to use real 11 violence. That's the best way I explain to people is I'm not the same person when I'm working and shit kicks off. Like it's a different person that I.
So you work on the doors?
At the moment, a little bit. I keep trying to get out of it, but it's I've done it so long. It's like I can do it blindfolded, So.
And you say you don't ever do it blindfolded. That would be fucking silly.
Yeah, you know what I mean. It's like
I know.
Yeah.
All right, look, we'll have to reschedule this again. Yeah, we'll do it again.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I've got to go. She's at the door doing that.
Take your beautiful wife out.
Yeah, she is. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely do it again.
Yeah, just let me know when. I'm usually game. See you later. Okay. Bye.
Thank you.